Season 2, Episode 5, Chupacabra.
Alright, so it begins... Well, actually, it doesn't begin, but Shane and Rick have a conversation in the woods when they're out looking for Sophia that I think is interesting because it's sort of... Okay, like, first they start off talking about, like, oh, how Shane had sex with his gym teacher in school.
The girls' volleyball coach, not the male gym teacher.
Yes, thank you, yes. And so then... and then they're like, oh, I guess we shouldn't be talking. I can't remember who says it, but like one of them's like, oh, I guess all these people. I guess it must have been Shane. Is like, oh, we shouldn't be talking about all these people because they're all dead. Like, you know, all these people we knew in the past and all these like stories we like to tell and stuff. And he's like, oh, nostalgia's the enemy because it'll make us weak now, and it's just a bunch of nonsense that isn't gonna help us. And I think Rick is like, oh, well, we have to remember this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And, okay. Shane, I think, makes an excellent point because they're looking for Sophia, and he says, like, how many times have we been out looking for missing kids? Which sort of raises some questions because of how small town, like they were just like county sheriffs. Town, yeah. And it's like, really, did you like have that many like missing child cases? I mean maybe, but at the same time, it's like really like hundreds. Now there might have been something weird going on in King County. Okay, so Shane is like, look, Rick, how many times have we, been out on a missing persons case? And it's like, you got 72 hours and then you're looking for a corpse. Which is true. Like, they say that after 72 hours, the chances of finding a missing child, like, just drops precipitously. And It's like, yeah, at that point, you keep looking, but they're probably not alive. Like, there's a very good chance that they're dead after that. And it's like, yeah, and then he's like, that was before. Like, this is a vastly more dangerous world now. Mm-hmm. Like,
there's a lot more things like
we have
to kill you.
Like, we have to look at it realistically and just say Sophia is probably dead now. Like,
plus,
we've been
it's not
looking
like someone took her. Like,
like she's in
out
the woods
on her
full
own.
of predators.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, she's out on her own. Yeah. And basically Rick's like, no, that's so heartless of you, Shane. Like, basically he's just... I don't know. I just think it's interesting because, like, as the show goes on, like, the characters increasingly just start to, like, act like Shane is advocating for them acting here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, being more pragmatic about it and, like, being more realistic about survival. And it's just interesting because the show tries to portray Shane as being just like heartless and like a psychopath, and it's like, well, no, he's not. Yes, he's crazy, but basically everything he suggests they do and every course of action he advocates them taking while he's alive turns out to A, be the correct one in the short term, and B, like, Rick just starts acting more like that as the show goes forward. Yeah. Like, he gets colder and more ruthless, and it's like, the world pretty much shows that to have been the correct thing to do. Oh, go ahead.
Like, for example, even in the first season, like, after that one walker comes to their camp, right? And they're oh, no one should go off. Like, Shane's saying, like, you guys shouldn't go to Atlanta.
We shouldn't be dividing our strength right now.
Right,
yeah.
And he was absolutely right because half of them and most of, like, the good fighters were gone when their camp got overrun. So, like, he's consistently right.
Yeah, I agree. The show just... like, to make him the villain, the show just has to make him, like, crazy and, like, emotionally unstable, or else it would just be like, oh yeah, I guess he's he's the better leader. Yeah, like, otherwise it would just be like, yeah, he should probably be in charge, not Rick,
Yeah.
Like, otherwise it would just be like, Rick seems like the unstable. If they didn't make Shane, like, totally crazy sometimes when it's convenient, like, and always, like, looking shifty and yeah.
So, Daryl decides to go out and look for Sophia and takes one of Herschel's horses. And he doesn't know it at the time, but this horse is called Nellie because it's a nervous Nellie. Like, it gets spooked easily. which Daryl finds out when the horse sees a snake and gets spooked
bucks
and
him off.
bucks him off. And he goes down this cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like a bad fall.
Yeah.
But then, like, when he's at the bottom, and he, like, looks up...
It looks much worse.
It looks so much worse. And it's basically... It looks like straight rock, just, like, straight up on all sides. And, like, we both said that's probably... That's probably not, like, reasonable to think that. Like, that's to think that area is in this part of where they are. Like, there would be at least one way that's at least somewhat flatter out, not just basically 90 degrees up.
Because, like, as he's trying to escape this gulch that he's fallen into, like... So he makes, like, okay, because he falls, and then he makes 2 different attempts to get up. Mm-hmm. Like, he tries to crawl up once, and then falls down, and then makes another attempt at it and gets out. But it's like, I mean, they didn't show it that clearly, but, dude, just be a little bit more patient, and you'll find a better way out than trying to climb up a straight hill.
Yeah.
Like, it's just dumb. I mean, he was really fortunate the first time because it was a really, really bad drop, and it, like, when they showed him waking up after falling, it really looked like, he fell on rock. Like, there was, like, maybe a foot of water.
But it's mostly rock.
Like, he should have been a bit more, like, he was really lucky to have not broken anything.
Yeah.
Aside from getting the crossbow bolt, which I have a bit of a... I have to nitpick because, like, they consistently refer to them as arrows, which isn't technically correct. But anyway, he gets one through his abdomen, and it's like, that's his only injury. Otherwise, he's fine.
And then, like, so like you said, he tries to climb up, and then he falls back down, and he, like, knocks himself out, and he just, like, completely, like... He imagines Merle there, his brother, who went missing in the first episode. He imagines Merle there talking to him, and he's like, "Why are you here?" And he's like, "I'm looking for a girl." Mm-hmm. And then he qualifies, and he's like, "A little girl's missing." And he's like, "Oh, you're out. You like little girls
like
now?"
You got a thing for little girls now.
Yeah, like. But Merle's not actually there, so this, like, suggestive comment, like, this weird comment is actually just weird. Daryl's subconscious, right? Like, he's just imagining Merle there.
Yeah, because, I mean, okay, like, yes, that seems like something Merle would, like, jokingly say to him, but at the same time, I mean, it is a little weird, right?
Yeah,
like, given everything, like, that he would even think that, like, about himself, or, like, it just... Yeah, it's a little weird. I agree.
And then like...
So then he, like, falls down again?
No.
Oh, is this one?
Yeah, so this is, like...
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this is still, like, imagined Merle is like, get up, and is kicking him. And then Daryl looks down and sees that there's a walker at his foot trying to eat his shoe. Mm-hmm. I don't think a walker would go for a shoe. They'd go for live flesh. Like... Yeah. They would go for his entire body that's there, not his rubbery sole shoe. Like, that just seems really inconsistent.
It is. And then there's just very convenient. It's being honorable. It's like giving him, it's treating him like a gentleman, and it's like,
it's giving
him time. Wait until he awakens from his slumber, and then I shall fight him in the honorable fashion.
And then there's another walker coming at him, and Daryl pulls the bolt out of his side and is able to get it to his crossbow and shoots the walker, like, right before he gets to him. But it's definitely through the, like, forefront of his head and his brain.
Yes.
It's not through the stem at all, so we're already being really inconsistent from what the CDC said, and that irritates me.
Yes. Because, and I'd be willing to give them the benefit of the doubt in certain situations where, like, trauma to the brain, even if it's not necessarily massively damaging to the anterior portions of the brain, like, I'd be willing to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but, they're in most situations, like here, like, it really shouldn't, because, I mean, like... It shouldn't be traumatizing enough to the entire brain to cause enough damage to the lower portions to, like, damage them sufficiently. Yeah. No, yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, basically any head wound is adequate, and that doesn't make very much sense.
Yeah. And then, so Daryl gets out, and he makes a necklace of Walker's ears. Like, he cuts one off and puts it on a necklace, and he's wearing it up. And so then Andrea, like, sees him. She's, like, sitting on top of the RV and sees him walking. But obviously he's, like, hurt, so he's limping and he's all bloody.
And, like, the sun is conveniently obscuring his face. Yeah, like, it's, like, so you can just see. And, like, he's dragging his crossbow, I believe. He's dragging something behind him. And so he's, like, making himself look like a walker, which is not a great,
and I'm sure idea. He's walking slow because he's hurt.
Yeah. But he's, like, apparently with it enough to be, like, joking, like, a second later. So, like, he really should be, like, he's, like, he should be, like, why don't I, like, rest for a second or something, just to, like, not make myself look too much like a walker. But,
So, and Andrea thinks he's a walker and, like, shouts and says, like, oh, there's a walker. And,
Rick gathers the other men, and they're like, don't shoot it. She's like, I can get it. And it's like, don't. And it's like, and I mean, yeah, because, okay, I mean, really, they're not, I mean, okay, so they don't think there's a ton of walkers around the farm.
Right.
But really, like, they should avoid firing their weapons as much as they can, because
just to be safe.
Yeah, I mean, because they're not, like, guarding the perimeter well. I mean, like, in this case, Andrea spotted him, and thought, but, like, most of the time, I don't feel like they're, like, they can't watch 360 degrees.
Right.
Like, they can't, like, keep a great watch over, like, the entire property. Like, when they're practicing, when, like, she wants to shoot it with the rifle, like, shoot him with the rifle, like, they risk attracting walkers a lot.
Right.
And it's really just not the most sensible course of action. Go ahead.
When Shane took a bunch of them out to practice shooting, like, they're just, like, boom, 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 like, they weren't keeping track, like you said, like, they're not, like, keeping track of ammo at all. They're not being, like, super careful. They're being loud and just firing off basically as much as they can.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they don't really go about, like, shooting in a super sensible kind of way.
At
I mean,
all.
I guess they probably don't have one, but, like, if Herschel's, I guess he wouldn't want it, but, like, if Herschel's house had a basement or something, that would probably be the best place to just, like, do some really basic shooting practice.
Yeah. It might hurt their hearing. But...
Well, look, that's their problem. I mean, I don't know. Like, you have to pick your battles. But they could get here. Okay, like, they could find a shooting supply store.
They probably could.
Somewhere around there or something. But, yeah. So oh, no, go ahead.
So all the guys run up to Daryl because they think he's a walker and they're about to kill him. And they're like, is that Daryl?
Yeah.
And then Daryl's like, that's the third time you've pointed
a gun at me.
You better shoot me. And... So, like, obviously he's talking, so they're like, oh, he's not a walker. Mm-hmm. But Andrea, being stupid, I think she's just trying to show off. She's like, oh, I can be one of the guys.
Yeah.
And so she shoots him, and it, like, grazes the side of his head, right?
Yes.
And he goes down, and they're like, no! And I think that's the end of...
I believe so.
Or is it just a commercial break?
Actually, I'm not sure. Let's see. I think they show... No. It's just a commercial break. It is, yeah. And so I just want to point out that, like, okay, like, Andrea waits to shoot until the other men are, like, far too close to what she thinks is a walker. Like, they're, like, 5 feet away from Daryl. And she's not experienced, like, this might be the first time she shot the rifle.
Yeah, I think it is.
Like, I know she thinks, oh, it's got this scope on it. I'll just, like, hit whatever's... And it's, like... that is super reckless. Like, she could have easily hit one of them.
Right.
Like, well, that is not a good idea.
Also, like, they ran up and then they just, like, stopped for a few seconds.
That's a very good point. Like, what does she think is going... Yes. No. That's what does she think is going on? They're, like, playing like rock, paper, scissors to see who like takes it out? No, that's an excellent point.
Thank
like
you.
what is she what does she think is going on? Why does she think they just all stop there? Like you're right.
She's
clearly
like,
this is not just a walker.
They obviously need me to do it.
Yeah. No, that's I mean cuz they're like they pause there for like at least 15 seconds, you know. No, that's like
So they get Daryl and they're taking him back to the house to have Herschel stitch him up. And
somebody
Glenn is like, is he
wearing Glenn? Okay,
is he wearing ears?
And Rick's like, let's keep that to ourselves.
Yeah,
and grabs the necklace and shoves it into his shirt.
Into his own shirt. Like, not into Daryl's shirt, into his own shirt. Like, why not just toss him aside? Why not just
dude, there's just so many
why
like
you want
Walker ears against your skin?
Why?
Like there are so many other ways to like hide those because I guess he's like, well, Daryl was shot and I want to keep these for him, you know, like
guess.
No, but it's a bit silly. He just like shoves and it's like I don't think the actor was like thinking about it. I think he's just like thinking of it as a prop and he's just like, I'll just like shove it into my shirt.
I guess.
But it's like there are so many like like you could basically do anything else with those and it would make more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had some questions, some thoughts at the end of this episode. So earlier Herschel was like, Jimmy's not my kin, but he's under my care.
I'm responsible for him.
Yes. And Jimmy is Beth's boyfriend, which we finally heard Beth speak.
Yes, this is the first episode where we actually hear her say anything.
Mr. Grimes, my dad wants to speak with you. And it's about Daryl taking Nellie. So, like, how did Jimmy come to live on the farm?
Yeah.
Because at first we were like, wait, is that Otis and Patricia's kid? And does that mean that, like, because, like, Jimmy and Beth are cousins, so like some incest going on there. But we looked it up, and he's not Otis and Patricia's kid. So, so we're thinking that like as the apocalypse was starting, that like Beth brought him to the farm,
something like that,
or like his parents were like, "You'll be safer there, go," or something like that.
Like maybe his parents died and then he just like went to the farm. Something like that. But that's a good it's like how did he come to be there?
And we also looked it up. Apparently Beth is not related to Patricia.
Yeah, apparently Patricia is not, because we were thinking like pretty sensibly, I think that like okay, maybe Patricia is like either Herschel or Herschel's like Beth's mother, you know, Herschel's second wife's sister or something, and then so
it's like
and then that aunt. Kind of and then it's like Otis is her husband and like works on the like something like because okay, I actually kind of have a problem with how did no one, when they were casting these people, how did no one look at Beth and Patricia and be like, yeah, they look like mother and daughter?
Because they do.
I mean, because like I think if you're just watching it, like, before you know who any of these people are, I think you'd be like, oh, Beth must be Patricia's daughter, right? Like,
Even in episode 6, it opens with Patricia, and I really thought it was Beth.
With the chickens?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
No. She just looks like an older Beth.
Similar, yes.
I mean, like, and then, like, in one of these, they're, like, standing... It's like when they're asking to learn how to shoot. Mm-hmm. It's like... And they're just, like, next to each other, and it's like... I'm sorry, are you kidding me? Like, no, we can't be the only people who think they look really similar. Like, Patricia just looks like Beth in the future.
She really does.
They look almost identical. I think there's something wrong with everyone else if they can't see this. I think it's super clear that they look similar. And, like, if Patricia was related to Beth somehow, like that her aunt, I think that would make perfect sense. But like, I think that would explain it. There, it just
says that, like, Patricia is Herschel's, like, vet assistant.
Yeah, apparently she was just married to Otis, and that's it. Like, apparently there's no relation,
which doesn't make any
sense, to Herschel's family, and it's I think that's kind of weird. Why not just make her the aunt? Because I think that would explain it. Yeah.
So, Maggie's mom is Herschel's first wife.
Yes.
And so, I can't remember if it's this episode or the next episode, Herschel was like asking about Maggie and Glenn and was like, I don't want to have to be worried about you. And she was like, I'm not 16, the way that like Beth and is it Jimmy? Yeah, Beth Jimmy. And Jimmy are. And so we know that Beth is 16. And then Glenn says later like that Maggie is 22. Yes. So they are 6 years apart in age. Mm-hmm. So and they have the same dad, obviously. They are sisters, they are half sisters. So whenever Herschel's second wife got pregnant with Beth, Maggie was, I think it's reasonable to assume, about 5.
Yeah.
So that means between when Maggie was born and between when she was 5, her mom died, her dad got remarried, and got her stepmom pregnant.
Yeah.
So, like, Herschel doesn't seem like the one that would rush into marriage. Or rush into having children.
Yeah.
Especially because he's pretty old.
Yeah, because he's like, I mean, he's like 70-something.
Yeah.
And so he was, he was pretty, I guess
50-something?
So I guess it was like he...
Early 50s with Maggie and like, or maybe late 40s and like mid 50s with...
Yeah.
That's kind of strange.
So like, okay, so like, I guess his whole like alcoholic phase was before Maggie was conceived. Must have been. Like, okay. Huh.
So maybe I'm wrong. This is just like assumptions. I feel like Maggie's mom had to have died during childbirth.
I mean, that would be the like cleanest explanation for like why he got, like, you know what I mean? Like,
and we never get any answers. Like,
no,
we don't know anything about Maggie's mom.
Which is kind of like they don't bother like even just having a one line like, oh, this is how she died.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I also noticed when they take Daryl to the house to get like stitched up from the bolt and the shotgun, or the shot in the that grazed his head, he's in another room on another bed and he's sleeping there. And I'm like, wait. How many rooms does this house have? Because it looks like a decent sized house, like maybe 4 or 5 rooms.
Yeah.
But so Herschel has a room. Patricia has a room, supposedly. Patricia and Otis, when Otis was alive. Maggie has a room. Beth has a room. Later on, we see Beth's room, and I don't think her and Maggie are sharing.
I think you're right. I don't think they are.
I'm sure Jimmy has a separate room. Herschel would not let Jimmy
wouldn't
stay
be okay with that.
With Beth, yeah. And then Carl has a room while he's getting fixed up. And then Daryl has a room when he's getting fixed up. So at least 7 rooms. And that house just does not look big enough to have 7 rooms. I agree.
It's a bit of a stretch. Yeah.
And you made a point earlier. I think maybe a couple episodes ago, Herschel was talking to Rick about, like, earning a father's love and respect. And he was like, he talked about how much he hated his father and how bad of a father he had.
Yeah. And
it's like, okay, yeah, you hated your father, but apparently not enough to take his house and his farm after he died.
Or rather the other way, that, like, apparently he didn't hate him enough to, like, not take, you know what I mean?
Right.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, like, but, no, it was like, he was like, Herschel was saying, like, some men do not earn their father's love, Rick. Like, I was not at my father's deathbed.
Right.
Some, like, I would not give him that honor. And it's like, so, I mean, okay, it's possible. And again, like, we don't get answers about, like, basically anything about Herschel's family. Like, but, okay, but he says that, like, this is his family's farm that's been in their family for, like, 160 years. I think that's what he said.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, it's certainly possible that Herschel's father, like, left their farm or something, like, it's possible that, but, so, I mean, it's possible that, like, he wasn't in charge of the farm when Herschel, like, before Herschel's father died. But it seems much more likely that, like, Herschel, like, didn't, wasn't at his family farm for, like, most of, like, however many decades of his earlier life, like, when he was an alcoholic, I guess. So he it's like he wanted to stay away from his father because he hated him so much. But then apparently he was like, well, you know, I'll just move back in and take his house, like, once he's dead. Like, he's like, well, old man's dead, time to move back into the farm.
Right,
and it's just like,
now.
yeah, I mean, like, I guess it just seems a bit weird because it's like, okay, like, this place isn't full of bad memories. I mean,
yeah,
I guess it was like, I guess he didn't mind taking it over because, like, depending on, like, when he met his wife, I mean, they do say that, like, they were married for, like, part of the time when Herschel was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
But it just, like, really, he could have, like, if it was, like, you would think if it was that bad, he wouldn't want, like, his childhood, you would think that he wouldn't want to live on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you'd think he would just, like, associate it with, like, all the abuse.
Right.
You know, and just, like, sell it or whatever and just live somewhere else with his wife. But, I mean, I guess not. Yeah, it's like, okay, you know, like, but he's just like, yep, he's dead. Time to move back into the farm. Okay.